Fear is a natural part of life. It's not something you escape, it's something you face. And the truth is, most people think fear is a sign to stop, to pull back, to retreat, but that's not what fear is. Fear is a signal. It's a sign you're getting close to something that matters. It's a sign you're pushing boundaries. It's a sign you're stepping outside your comfort zone. See, comfort is the enemy of growth. You don't grow where it's safe. You grow when it's risky. You grow when there's uncertainty. You grow when there's pressure. And fear is the proof that you're entering that zone. So many people get to the door of opportunity, but because fear is standing there like a guard dog, they turn around. They miss the blessing because they didn't understand the signal. They thought fear meant turn back, but fear was actually saying move forward just with courage. And here's the thing, people think courage means you don't feel afraid. That's a lie. Courage is moving while you're still shaking. It's showing up even when your voice trembles. It's taking the step while your mind is screaming at you to stop. That's what separates the successful from the average. The brave from the comfortable, the ones who live life on purpose from the ones who just survive. Fear is not your enemy, it's your mirror. It reflects where you are and where you still need to go. And if you never confront it, you stay stuck. You stay in the same place, you stay hidden, you stay small. Most people pray for strength, but when the test shows up, they back down. They want power, but don't want pressure. They want confidence, but don't want the process that builds it. But it doesn't work like that. You don't get to the next level without going through fear. You don't access the reward without facing the resistance. And when you learn to see fear as the pathway, not the problem, you shift everything. You realize it's not something to avoid, it's something to respect. You study it, you listen to it, you ask, what are you trying to teach me? Because fear always has a lesson. It's showing you what you're still clinging to. It's exposing your doubts, your insecurities, your self-limiting beliefs, and that's where the real work begins. Not in removing the fear, but in removing what gives fear its power. Every person you admire had to walk through fear. Not once, but repeatedly. You don't build courage in the big moments, you build it in the little decisions. Every time you say yes to showing up. Every time you choose purpose over panic. Every time you do the thing you swore you couldn't do. That's how you grow. That's how you get stronger. And guess what? It's not about waiting until you feel ready. You'll never feel ready. The fear will always whisper, wait. It'll always try to talk you out of the moment. But you've got to train your spirit to say now, to say, I'm going even if I'm afraid, to say, this fear is proof that something powerful is on the other side. That's how champions move. That's how leaders rise. That's how the brave are made, not in comfort, not in perfection, not in control, but in chaos, in fire, in uncertainty. In the places where you have to dig deep and pull out something you didn't know you had asked ChatGPT, most people spend their lives waiting for fear to disappear before they take action. They wait until they feel strong, wait until the doubt is gone, wait until the path is clear. But here's the truth, that moment never comes. You will never feel 100% ready. You will never wake up one day and have zero fear, zero anxiety, zero questions. And the people who keep waiting for that moment, they stay stuck. They sit on dreams. They bury their gifts. They settle for average because fear tricked them into thinking they weren't ready. But let me tell you what the brave understand. Being brave doesn't mean you eliminate fear. It means you override fear. It means you make a decision that what you're fighting for is more important than what you're afraid of. Fear is a liar. It will whisper worst-case scenarios in your ear. It will show you every time you've failed. It will remind you of your weaknesses, magnify your flaws, and feed your insecurities. And if you don't get control of that voice, it will run your life. You've got to replace the fear with focus. You've got to speak louder than the voice of doubt. That's why self-talk matters. That's why mindset matters. When fear says, what if you fall? You've got to answer back, but what if I fly? When fear says you're not good enough, you say, I'm growing, I'm building, I'm not perfect, but I'm powerful. You have to take authority over that voice, or it will make decisions for you. You don't become brave by reading about it. You don't become brave by listening to motivation all day and hoping the courage kicks in. You become brave by doing the things scared. You become brave by stepping into the meeting when your heart's pounding, by speaking your truth when your voice shakes, by getting back up after failure slapped you in the face. Bravery is not built in the absence of fear. It is built through fear. That's why you can't wait for the fear to leave. You go with it. You walk through the fear. You walk into the fear. You let it burn and still keep moving forward. The world doesn't need more people playing safe, playing small, hiding behind fake strength. The world needs people willing to step up even when they're afraid. People who understand that fear isn't a full stop, it's just a red light that means pause, prepare, then proceed. But most of y'all see red and slam the brakes. You shut down, you doubt everything. You think fear means you're not good enough. But in reality, fear is part of the process. It's part of greatness. It's part of stepping into who you're meant to be. And if you let it become your ceiling, you'll never reach your potential. The most powerful shift you can make is to stop waiting for confidence and start choosing courage. Confidence comes after you act, not before. You've got to go scared. You've got to move unsure. You've got to walk with the fear in your chest and still take the step. Because the moment you do, you prove to yourself that fear doesn't control you. That's how momentum is built. That's how freedom is built. Not by sitting and waiting, but by doing the thing afraid. Most people want to be brave, but they don't want to feel uncomfortable. They want courage without confrontation, growth without resistance, strength without struggle. But that's not how it works. If you want to be brave, you have to get used to being uncomfortable. You have to stop waiting for the feeling to go away and start learning how to function with it. Fear doesn't just vanish because you want it to. It sticks around to test you, to refine you, to shape you. And the ones who rise, they're not the ones who don't feel fear. They're the ones who feel it and do it anyway. That's where power is born, not in the absence of fear, but in the mastery of it. You've got to stop giving fear your voice. Stop letting it narrate your story. Stop letting it build walls between you and your purpose. Fear doesn't deserve that kind of authority. You weren't created to be controlled by your emotions. You were created to lead them. Every time you let fear make your decisions, you lose a piece of who you're meant to be. You hand over your potential, your progress, your power. Fear is a thief, and if you let it, it will rob you blind. It will steal your ideas, your relationships, your future. And here's the truth. The longer you wait to face it, the stronger it gets. The more you hesitate, the heavier it becomes. That's why you've got to confront it head on. Some people think bravery is about having all the answers. It's not. It's about choosing to show up even when you don't. It's about taking one step even when you can't see the whole path. It's about trusting that what's in you is stronger than what's around you. Every time you face what you fear, you shrink its power. Every time you stand your ground, you gain ground. The fear might still be there, but your response is different. Your mindset is different. You start realizing, I've done hard things before. I've survived storms before. I've stood in the fire and didn't get burned. You've got to stop rehearsing the worst case scenario in your mind. Stop running all the negative what-ifs, because every time you do that, you're reinforcing a belief that you're not capable, and that belief is poison. It kills your motivation, your focus, your hustle. You can't operate in fear and faith at the same time. One has to dominate, and the one that dominates is the one you feed. So what are you feeding? What thoughts are you repeating? What story are you believing? If it's a story rooted in fear, tear it down and write a new one. A story where you're not the victim, you're the warrior. A story where you're not fragile, you're fire, tested. A story where you walk into the fear, not because it's easy, but because you refuse to be a slave to it. Bravery doesn't begin in the moment you act, it begins in the decision before the moment. It starts in the silence, in the dark, in the places no one sees. It starts in your mindset, in your daily discipline, in your commitment to push through even when your emotions tell you to run. Too many people think bravery is loud, flashy, something that shows up with a dramatic entrance, but real bravery is quiet. It's built in the dark. It's forged when no one's watching. It's in the early mornings when you show up, even though your mind is screaming, "Go back to bed." It's in those moments when you choose to speak your truth, even if your voice trembles. That's real courage, choosing growth over comfort, choosing action over anxiety. Most people never step into bravery because they spend too much time waiting for their feelings to catch up. But feelings are not facts. Feelings are not permanent. Your emotions are not always aligned with your purpose. That's why discipline matters. That's why training matters. You don't rise in the moment unless you've trained before the moment. Bravery is not just a spontaneous burst of power, it's a muscle. And like any muscle, you've got to stretch it, tear it, rebuild it. You've got to do uncomfortable reps every single day. Small moments where you choose courage over fear, truth over silence, action over hesitation. When life gets scary, the natural instinct is to pull back, to protect, to shrink, but that's the opposite of what you need to do. When fear shows up, that's the cue to lean in. That's the signal that you're in the right place. The presence of fear often means you're doing something that matters. It means you're stretching into your future. It means you're disrupting the ordinary. You think fear is a problem, but sometimes it's the proof. Proof that you're doing something meaningful. Proof that you're not asleep at the wheel. Proof that you're alive, aware, and on the edge of something that could change everything. Fear thrives in delay. The longer you pause, the louder it gets. The more you avoid it, the more power it gains. That's why you've got to move quickly when fear speaks. You've got to act before the fear grows roots. The mind will always try to keep you safe. But there's a difference between safety and purpose. Safety keeps you stuck. Purpose pushes you. Safety keeps you average. Purpose forces you to evolve. So the choice is yours: protect your comfort or protect your calling. You were not made to live a life governed by fear. You were built for hard things. You were built for pressure. You were built for moments that shake most people. And the moment you accept that, the fear starts to lose its grip. Not because it disappears, but because you've shifted your relationship with it. You stop asking fear for permission. You stop letting it sit at the table. You recognize it, but you don't obey it. That's what brave people do. They feel the fear, but they don't bow to it. They acknowledge it, but they don't let it vote. Because at the end of the day, you either move through fear or you stay stuck under it. Bravery is born the moment you stop negotiating with pain. Most people, when they see pain coming, they flinch, they run, they hide, they start adjusting the goal, lowering the standard, backing off the dream, all because the journey got uncomfortable. But that's the test. That's the moment that separates the ones who say they want it from the ones who live like they want it. Pain is part of the process. It's not an interruption. It's the weight room for your character. Every great person you admire has scars, but those scars didn't come from avoiding the fight. They came from walking through the fire over and over again until the fire no longer scared them. You don't grow by skipping the hard part. You grow by standing in it and refusing to quit. You've got to stop letting the pain of the process make you forget the promise. There's something on the other side of that fear, that exhaustion, that frustration. But most people never get there because they let temporary pain create permanent excuses. They want the dream but not the discipline. They want the win but not the work. But bravery, real bravery, it says, I don't care how uncomfortable this gets, I'm not backing down. It says I refuse to let fear dictate how far I go. Pain becomes powerless the moment you stop fearing it, the moment you realize that pain is not the enemy, it's the proof you're on the path. See, people think bravery is a personality trait. It's not. It's a lifestyle. It's a mindset. It's a decision you make every day when things aren't ideal, when the path isn't clear, when the plan falls apart, when the pressure rises, and you don't get to that decision by accident. You get there by conditioning your mind. Every time you choose to stay in the discomfort and push, you're building your mental toughness. You're telling your mind, this is how we respond now. And the more you do that, the easier it gets. You stop waiting for motivation and start relying on discipline. You stop asking, how do I feel? And start saying, what needs to be done? Pain will tempt you to shrink. It will tempt you to delay. It will tempt you to numb, to distract, to compromise. But when you know your mission, when your reason is bigger than your resistance, you can endure more than you ever imagined. And the people who win, they're not the most talented, they're not the smartest, they're not the ones with the perfect conditions, they're the ones who kept showing up when it hurt. They're the ones who chose purpose over pain. They didn't get lucky, they got locked in. They made a decision that discomfort wouldn't define them, that fear wouldn't frame their life, that failure wouldn't be the end of their story. They stopped negotiating with pain and they started mastering it. Fear multiplies in confusion. The more uncertain you are about who you are and what you're here to do, the louder fear becomes. Fear feeds off hesitation, off second guessing, off cloudy purpose. But the moment you get clarity, the moment you lock in on your mission, fear starts to lose its grip. That's why clarity isn't just a nice-to have, it's a weapon. It cuts through the fog. It gives you direction when your emotions are screaming chaos. You don't rise in fear by being stronger, you rise by being clearer. When you know exactly what you're fighting for, what you're building, what you're becoming, fear doesn't get the final say. Most people don't lack strength, they lack focus. They wake up with no aim, no target, no fire behind their steps. And when fear shows up, it's easy to fold because there's no anchor. But when you've made a decision that nothing is going to stop you, not fear, not failure, not the opinions of others, then your actions start to match your vision. Clarity gives you discipline. Clarity gives you urgency. Clarity gives you permission to stop wasting time on distractions and start investing in your mission. You've got to be so locked in on your goal that fear becomes background noise. It's still there, but it doesn't drive the car anymore. It doesn't call the plays. It doesn't write the story. You think fear is the issue, but a lot of the time it's just a symptom. The real issue is confusion. The real issue is drifting through life with no fire, no blueprint, no conviction. And you've got to be real with yourself. If you're not living on purpose, you're reacting to everything. You're living based on what happens to you instead of who you've decided to be. That's why when life gets tough, some people crumble because they've got nothing solid under their feet. No foundation, no deep-rooted mission that keeps them standing when the storm hits. But the people who have made a decision, the ones who have locked into their purpose like their life depends on it, they may still feel fear, but they refuse to be led by it. Clarity gives you authority. Authority over your time, your energy, your direction. It keeps you moving when motivation fades. It gives you language when life gets loud. When things start falling apart, most people panic. But when you've already decided who you are and what you're about, there's no panic, just pivots. There's no breakdown, just course correction. That's the difference between the brave and the broken. The brave aren't fearless, they're just focused, and that focus came from getting crystal clear on their purpose. They stopped chasing everything and started building one thing. They stopped reacting and started deciding. They stopped waiting for a feeling and started moving in conviction. That's how clarity kills fear, not instantly, not perfectly, but consistently. Because when you're clear, fear can't control you. It may knock, but it doesn't get in. It may whisper, but it doesn't direct your steps. It may try to slow you down, but it doesn't get to define your limit.